So today I'm going to be filming my complete horror movie collection video for 2025. I hope to be doing more frequent videos on this channel in the future, maybe once a month, going into my recent pickups or reviewing a movie and doing this type of video once or twice a year with an updated complete collection. My horror movie collection is that shelf, and that shelf. The rest of it is not horror. And it's all alphabetized. The boutique stuff is with the normal studio stuff, aside from those Vinegar Syndrome slipcovers, which I have not yet been able to sell. So I'm just going to start with that and then go over. So up first we have Five Women for the Killer, which I have not yet watched. We have Battle for the Lost Planet / Mutant War, which is not horror, but I have not yet sold the slipcover to incorporate it into my normal movies. And again, Beastmaster is not horror, but I have not been able to sell that slipcover yet, and I don't want to incorporate these alphabetically into all of my other movies and then have to pull them off the shelf every time I want to take a picture of them to post to try to sell. Once I sell the slipcover, I'm just taking the normal movie, putting it on my shelf alphabetically, because at this point I don't really care about slipcovers that much. We have The Bees, which is actually a great slipcover, and if I were keeping the ones that I like the most, would be a slipcover I would keep. We have Bloodbeat, which is a very underrated Christmas slasher. We have Cemetery of Terror. Devil's Story, which I am one of the people that love Devil's Story, especially the horse scene. The 11th Commandment. The Fear, which was my very first ever Vinegar Syndrome pickup. Flesh-Eating Mothers. Girls' School Screamers. The Hitcher in the Dark. Iceman Cometh. I have not watched this. I don't think that this is horror, unless it actually is and I just don't know about it. The Killer's Delight. The Laughing Dead. The Lost Films of Herschel Gordon Lewis. I have not watched this either, so can't really comment on how good that is. Same with this. I have not watched Master of the World yet. Mostly I picked up. I stopped collecting Vinegar Syndrome as much because I was just buying 20 or 30 movies every time they had their giant biannually sales. And then I'd have like 30 movies on my shelf that I have not watched yet. So instead, I'm focusing on mainly collecting movies that I've already seen and know I love, which is how I would recommend most people to go about collecting horror movies. We have Memorial Valley Massacre, great slasher actually. Play Dead. Resurrection. Rush Week, which is a very great campus slasher. Scared to Death. I have not watched that. Shallow Grave. And then down on this shelf, we have Shriek of the Mutilated, which is very underrated in my opinion. I went into this thinking that it was going to be absolute dog shit. I love this movie. Silent Madness. Steel and Lace. Sugar Cookies. Surf 2. I'm going to push this down here because these keep snagging. Terminal Island. I have not watched that yet. Don't know if it's horror or not, so I'm just going to keep it with those. Tough Guys Don't Dance. Very much so not horror, but also one of my favorite Vinegar Syndrome releases. Trauma. Voyage of the Rock Aliens, which is a really fun musical. The Werewolf vs. Vampire Woman, which is just alright in my opinion. Who Done It? The Grave, which is also one of my favorite Vinegar Syndrome releases. And then here's the start of the alphabetical order. Now I have all my stuff, even Vinegar Syndrome stuff, mixed in with each other. It's just the Vinegar Syndrome stuff without slips. So we have 47 meters down. A Enigma, which is a very fun Lucio Fulci film. We have the Alien Anthology, also Alien vs. Predator double feature, Prometheus, and Alien Covenant. I still need to get Romulus. And then we have All American Murder and American Werewolf in London, which is probably an all-timer. The 3 Amityville films put out by Vinegar Syndrome that I have, I don't own any other Amityville films aside from these 3. We have Amityville 4, A New Generation, and Dollhouse. I've seen one of those. I believe I've seen The Evil Escapes, and I actually really enjoyed it. We have Anaconda, Annabelle Comes Home, Annihilation, The Ascent, which I've never seen. It was a Horror Pack movie. I stopped subscribing to Horror Pack because they just send me a bunch of random shit that was not very good. And that's one of the ones that I've kept because I have not watched. And down to this shelf we have Auntie Lee's Meat Pies, Beetlejuice, Before the Fire, which is another one of those Horror Pack movies I have not watched yet, Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon, which, as a slasher fan, I don't think that there have been very many notable slasher films within the 2000s. There's been like a couple good Texas Chainsaw Massacre sequels, Terrifier films, Thanksgiving. This is definitely one of those ones that I think are notable and worth watching. Beyond the Door 3. The Birds 2, I have not watched that yet. I have watched the original Birds. I bought that on a sale. Or I bought Birds 2 on a sale, just have not gotten around to watching it yet because everyone hates it. The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, which is one of my favorite giallos. I have not seen as many giallos as I wish I would have by this point, or Dario Argento films in general. But I know for a fact that this is my favorite Dario Argento, I can tell you that, but it's definitely one of my favorite giallos as well. Black Christmas, the definitive Christmas horror film in my opinion. There will probably never be a Christmas horror film as good as this film. It is a yearly watch for me. I like the remake, Black Xmas. I do not like the 2019-ish movie. I think it came out in 2019. I hate that movie. It sucks, but I do intend on getting Black Xmas at some point to go along with this. Black Swan, Blades, which is basically Jaws with a lawnmower instead of a shark. The Blair Witch Project, The Blob, Bloodsuckers from Outer Space, Blood Games, which is one of those Vinegar Syndrome films I think that everybody should watch who likes horror movies. We have Body Bags, a very good anthology film. Pretty sure Tobe Hooper directed one of the shorts in this one. John Carpenter acts throughout it. We have Body Melt, which is an absolutely insane, I think, Australian body horror film. I'm a huge fan of body horror, and Body Melt has some of the most insane special effects I've ever seen in a film. I mean, the cover looks right on along with what you're getting with the movie, which is something I cannot say with a lot of Vinegar Syndrome movies. They tend to make their covers look a lot better than the movie actually is. Bone Tomahawk, which is probably the only Western horror film in here. Maybe. I think it might be the only Western horror film I own in my collection. Bong of the Living Dead. Not very good. I bought it at a convention because sometimes I'll just come across a random horror movie that I think sounds cool, like Bong of the Living Dead, at a horror movie convention, and I'll pick it up thinking it's going to be fun. It's not very good. I'm keeping it because I bought it at a convention. Boogeyman 2, which I recently bought for $1 at a thrift store. I watched this on DVD as a kid. I just figured it was worth owning, having on my shelf, because I remember liking it as a kid. I'm going to revisit it at some point. Bram's The Boy 2, have not watched. Another one of those Horror Pack films that I just do not feel like watching. Dead or Alive, this is a bootleg. I have never watched it. I bought it at a convention because there is normally this table with a guy who sells bootleg movies, and I bought it from them thinking that I would watch it. Haven't watched it yet. Don't even know if the disc actually works because I've gotten a couple of them that don't work from the same guy, so. Burial Ground, one of the all-time great zombie films. Probably top 5 zombie movies for me. The Cabin in the Woods. I feel like everybody has to own this in their collection. The Caller. It's alright. And then the Candyman films. So I got Candyman 1, Candyman 2, Candyman 3, which is horrible. I will probably never rewatch it unless I'm showing somebody the film or doing like an all-day marathon of the Candyman films. It's pretty horrendous. I do think that Candyman 2 is one of the most underrated horror sequels that there is, probably. And then the remake thing that they came out with a few years ago is actually pretty great also. Cannibal Holocaust. I wish that I owned a better version of that movie and not the horror pack exclusive. It's one of those movies that I would upgrade to a 4K or a nice fancy box set if I felt like spending the extra money. And maybe one day I will. Carrie, it's another one of those movies that I kind of wish I owned a nicer version of. I know that there's a 4K Steelbook, and I was going to get that, but then I came across this at Half Price Books for like $5, so I just decided to get that. Then the Cat of Nine Tails, the 4K version from Arrow. I have not watched that yet. And then we have Christine, as well as the Chucky 7 movie collection and Child's Play. Chucky is one of those horror franchises, maybe one of like 2 horror franchises that I can honestly say does not have a bad movie within the whole bunch. Condemned. This is a horror pack movie I actually watched and actually enjoyed enough to keep in my collection. If everything that they sent out was as fun as this or as interesting as this, maybe I would have stayed subscribed, but they have also raised the price up. So they I think it's like $10 more than it was when I was subscribed when I got this. It's not worth it to get 4 random horror movies in the mail every single month. This is another one. I have never watched this, and it came in a horror pack. We have Count Dracula's Great Love, which is a fantastic Vinegar Syndrome release. Crabs. This is another horror pack movie that I actually really enjoyed. Crawl, which is one of my favorite animal attack movies. We have the Creature from the Black Lagoon Steelbook, as well as the Legacy Collection. I don't think I'm ever going to sell this Steelbook. I only got it for like $10. And Creature from the Black Lagoon is one of those movies that I have loved ever since I started really getting the horror movies. So it's one of those movies that I might collect more editions of if I come across cool versions of them in the future. We have Creepshow, the Critters collection from Scream Factory, as well as Critters Attack. I actually got this in a horror pack, and I'm glad I did, because I would have had to go buy it otherwise, because I do love the Critters movies. Dark Star, absolute trash John Carpenter movie. I bought that when I was first super getting into collecting movies, and I was trying to collect every John Carpenter movie. It's not good. Dark Tales from Channel X is a horror pack exclusive. It is one of the only good ones from their actual exclusives that they would send out every month that I enjoyed. The Dark Tower, Day of the Dead, signed by Tom Savini. This is my favorite zombie movie. It's probably this, Return of the Living Dead, and Zombie by Lucio Fulci. Dawn of the Dead. This is a bootleg. One day, I'm going to get rid of this, get me a nice actual official copy of Dawn of the Dead, and have it on my shelf. It's not a movie that I love. I think that it's a slightly overrated zombie movie, personally, and I like the remake more, which I'm surprised I do not own. I actually thought that I did own the remake. Dead Heat, Deadline, Deadly Embrace, and Murder Weapon. I would not keep this if it was just Murder Weapon, but I actually love Deadly Embrace. Normally people are the other way around. They love Murder Weapon, do not like Deadly Embrace. I'm the exact opposite. Dial Code Santa Claus, the best Vinegar Syndrome Christmas movie I've seen so far out of the 3 or 4. This is basically Home Alone, but actually horror, and it's far better than Home Alone and genuinely unsettling. We have Deadstream, Death Row Game Show, Death by Temptation, Demonia, Demons 1 and 2, which this is maybe the definitive Italian horror film that I would show somebody who I was trying to get into Italian horror films. It would be a toss-up between this, Pieces, and Zombies, but I think I would probably go with Demons. I would do the English version. I watched this today, and I watched the international English version because that's the one that I watched the first time I watched it. I haven't watched Demons 2 yet. I watched Demons 1 today so I could watch Demons 2 later. The Dentist 1 and 2, which are two extremely underrated Brian Yuzna horror films. And this was also only like $12. Vestron's later releases are super good for the amount of money you spend on them because most of them are like $12 and they're movies that nobody else was going to put out. And then coming up to the second shelf, we have The Devil's Honey, a very underrated Lucio Fulci film. I think it might actually be maybe my top 3 Lucio Fulci films. The Devil's Rejects, which is one of the only good Rob Zombie movies in my opinion, and the only good movie out of that trilogy. I would maybe buy them just to have them on my shelf and have access to, 3 from Hell. But this is the only one that is like, you have to own this for me. Disconnected. Pretty sure this is in my top 15 favorite Vinegar Syndrome releases. This movie is great. It's really weird and something that you would want to watch at like 3 in the morning. Dr. Sleep, never seen it. Dolly Dearest, a very good Chucky ripoff. Don't Answer the Phone. Pretty sure that's 70s. I would say it's a very good 70s horror film if it is. Yeah, 1979. Don't Breathe. I need to get Don't Breathe 2. Don't Torture a Duckling. Very good Giallo. I want to one day own every single Lucio Fulci film. This is one of the best for sure. Drag Me to Hell. Not a fan of it, honestly. I don't like this movie very much. Drive-In Massacre. It's alright. Not going to pull this one out because of what the cover looks like. But Dumb and Dahmer, only own it because the guy that was selling it at the horror convention I was at was funny and talked me into buying it. I have still not watched it. Probably will never watch it. We'll probably get rid of it at some point because of the cover. And I want to have kids one day and I don't want them to have to come up to my shelf and pull out a movie and then see that. Ebola Syndrome. Absolute insane. Like, absolutely insane movie. There's so much weird shit in this one. Evil Dead 1 and 2. I love Evil Dead 1, and I don't like Evil Dead 2 very much. I didn't like any of them up until about 6 months ago. I really came around on the Evil Dead franchise, and it's just like Chucky. I think it's one of the only ones where there's not a bad movie in the bunch. We have Army of Darkness. The Evil Dead remake. I still haven't taken off the half-price book sticker. And then we have Evil Dead Rise in the house. It's in my girlfriend's collection. We have Fade to Black. Fall. We have this triple pack with Phantom of the Opera by Dario Argento, Within the Rock, and The Fear Halloween Night. I bought this off eBay just so I could get The Fear. Flesh and Fantasy. The Fly collection. I think that the original 1950s Fly right here, if I can even pull it out, I'm not even gonna mess with that. The original Fly is the best Fly in my opinion. I like David Cronenberg's Fly a lot, but I honestly like the Fly 2 more, which is like sacrilegious. I've never met anybody else that has that opinion, but for me, I enjoy the sequel to Cronenberg's film more than the original. The Fog by John Carpenter. And then here is a little section with all my forgotten Gialli collections from Vinegar Syndrome. We have the first one, which is alright. The third one, I sold the second one. I did not like a single movie in the second one. I had the standard edition like this, but I'm not going to keep it when not a single one of them is good. I was never going to rewatch them, so I just got rid of them. We have Volume 4, which... No, that's Volume 5. We have Volume 5 up there. Volume 4 is over there for some reason. Volume 5 is alright. Volume 3 is very good. And then down here, we have Volume 4, which is easily the best. All three of those movies are amazing. Arabella Black Angel is incredible. The Sister of Ursula is great. And The Killer is Still Among Us is one of the most unsettling giallo films I've ever seen, especially considering the fact that I'm pretty sure it's based on true stories. And then we have the Frankenstein Complete Legacy Collection. One of my favorite things I own in my entire collection, which is the Friday the 13th Scream Factory box set. My favorite is easily... Where is it even at? Easily Part 2. I'm a big Part 2 fan. I love Jason Lives as well. I'm not big on Part 4 like everyone else. I would rather watch 3 or New Beginning than Part 4 in my opinion. We have Frogs. I bought it for like $8 at Half Price Books. Have not watched it. From Beyond, which is my favorite Vinegar Syndrome release of all time. Concretely number 1. I'm going to be meeting Jeffrey Combs in October at Scarefest and hopefully getting him to sign this. We have Frostbiter, The Funhouse, The Gates of Hell, also known as City of the Living Dead. Great Lucio Fulci, which I can say about just about every Lucio Fulci I've seen. We have Get Out, Ghoulies 1 and 2. I am hoping that the rumors are true that we will be getting Ghoulies 3, which I also watched that today for the first time ever in my life and liked it more than the other two. There are rumors that Vinegar Syndrome will be putting it out. I'm hoping that that is true. We have the Giallo Essentials collection from Arrow Video. I have the red, the white, and the yellow down here. I do not have blue or black, I think is the other color. We have The Gift, Ginger Snaps. I got this in a trade with somebody. I haven't watched it yet. And I also bought this the other day for like $1 at a thrift store because I figured it would be better than having to rely on it being on a streaming service when I get around to watching Ginger Snaps and potentially having to rent it for $4 if I do want to watch it. So I figured $1 for the DVD, I'll watch it. If I don't like it, I'll get rid of it. Otherwise, it was a good purchase. Graduation Day, great slasher. Grave Robbers, Green Room, Gremlins 1 and 2. Still have never seen Gremlins 2. Every time I watch Gremlins 1, I expect to go into Gremlins 2 and finally watch it. Never do. Guilty Pleasure. Have never watched that. Halloween, signed by Nick Castle. Halloween 2. Another Halloween 2. Halloween H2O 6. And Resurrection. I hate Resurrection. It is one of my least favorite films of all time, probably. But I'm glad that I own it. And I'm glad that I didn't have to buy it by itself. And that I was able to get it in this triple feature. Halloween 1 and 2 by Rob Zombie. Do not like either of these movies. I just like having access to every Halloween movie. It's one of those franchises that even if I don't like every single one, I still want to have access to them. I'm missing 3, 4, and 5. And then I think that's it. So I'm going to be getting those soon, hopefully. We have Halloween. This is signed by James Jude Courtney. I just put these in these little slip protectors because I like the fact that Halloween Kills, Halloween, and Halloween Ends all have like matching slip covers that are textured. My favorite horror Halloween is Halloween Kills. Even including the original one, I might be the only person on earth that thinks this, but this is one of my favorite slashers of all time. It is pound for pound the funnest Halloween movie. Has some of the coolest visuals in any Halloween film. It is maybe the most menacing and imposing that Michael Myers is, the entire franchise, and I think that it gets way too much hate. Happy Birthday to Me. Hatchet. I've seen Hatchet 1 and I've seen Hatchet 2. I hate both of them. I bought this for like $4 at a Half Price Books, having never seen it. I would buy the second one if I came across it for less than $5 just to have it on my shelf. But this movie sucks in my opinion. The Haunting of Hill House. Hereditary, signed by her. I don't know her name, if I'm being honest with you. I just knew that she was in Hereditary and that I love this movie a lot. The Hills Have Eyes. The Hills Have Eyes remake, which is one of the greatest horror movie remakes of all time, Homegrown Horrors by Vinegar Syndrome, their box set. Fatal Exam, huge advocate for that movie. I love that movie. I think Beyond Dream's Door is okay. I did not like Winter Beast the first time I saw it, but that was like 4 or 5 years ago probably. I probably need to rewatch Winter Beast at least and reevaluate it. And then we have Horns. Have not seen that. I got that in a trade with somebody. And I have not seen this either. Horror High and Stanley. And then coming down here to the final row of this second shelf, we have Horror of Party Beach. I got this for like $5 during a Severance sale on DVD. At the time, I was still very opposed to owning DVDs. I was a Blu-ray snob. Now I don't give as much of a shit. I'm fine with owning a movie on DVD, unless it's like, I wouldn't want Halloween 2 on a DVD. I would want Halloween 2 on a Blu-ray at least. But this doesn't need to be on a Blu-ray. It's fun, worth the money I spent on it. Never seen this. This is another bootleg. I forgot that I owned this. Pretty sure there's a DVD of this now, or a Blu-ray of this now, that I should go out and get. But it's alright. House of Usher, pretty good. House of Wax. I like this movie. However, I like the original more from the 50s. I just haven't gotten that one yet. The Hunt, probably one of my favorite. I think this was 2020s. I don't know where it's at on the package, but probably one of my favorite horror films of the last like 10 years. Incubus. I Know What You Did Last Summer. I rewatched that last night. Not as good as I remember it. At one point in my life, I actually thought that it was better than Scream. Looking back on that, I was insane for thinking that. It's nowhere near as good as Scream. I still love it, and I still want to get the second one. The third one, the biggest pile of garbage I've ever seen in my life. Genuinely my least favorite film ever made. I hate the third one with a passion. If I owned it, I would burn it. In the Mouth of Madness. Intruder, a very great grocery store set slasher with appearances by Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi. The Invisible Man Legacy Collection. This is probably... I'm a big fan of the Creature from the Black Lagoon Legacy Collection, but in terms of value for your money, not counting Dracula and not counting Wolfman because I don't own those sets yet, this is probably my favorite of the Legacy collections. Invisible Woman is very good. Invisible Man Returns is good and has Vincent Price in it. One of these was also really good. I think it was Abbott and Costello Meet the Invisible Man. I really enjoyed that movie as well. The Invisible Man remake. This is also a great remake. Probably one of the best remakes of the 2020s so far. Enjoyed this movie. Have not seen the second one. Don't own the second one. It Comes at Night. It Follows. Probably my actual favorite horror movie of the last like 10 years. This is probably in my top 20 favorite horror movies of all time in general. I love this movie. It Hatched. Haven't seen it. Didn't decide to sell it because the title is great. The cover is great. Just haven't gotten around to watching it. It Stains the Sands Red. A very good zombie movie that came in a horror pack. Jack Frost. I think it's a little bit overrated with the Vinegar Syndrome crowd. Not a huge fan of it. I do want to get the second one. I grew up watching Jack Frost. It's one of the only Vinegar Syndrome movies that I had watched prior to it's a little broken right there too. Prior to even knowing what Vinegar Syndrome is. So I'm never going to sell it because there's some nostalgia there. But I think I watched the second one more as a kid. So, and it's only like $13 on Amazon right now. At some point I got to get it and put it in my collection. Jaws, as well as the Jaws 3 movie collection. And I don't know if I'm the only person on earth that thinks this. I would probably throw on Jaws 2 or 3 before Jaws 1. And I think Jaws 1's a great movie. It's the only one of the four that I would classify as a objectively great movie that, you know, you could argue is like Oscar level. However, I like Jaws 2 and Jaws 3 and even Jaws 4 a lot. I would probably throw all of those on. Jeepers Creepers, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. This one gets better every single time I watch it. Killer Movie, Krampus. Not a huge fan of this. I got this Blu-ray really cheap, having never seen this movie. It's worth owning it. My girlfriend loves it. I'm not going to sell it. I'm just not a fan of it. The Lamp, Last House on the Left. This is one that I would maybe want to have a nicer version of. Land of the Dead, a very good late career George Romero zombie movie. I like it more than Dawn of the Dead. I don't like it more than Night or Day, but I do like it more than Dawn. The Leprechaun 7 film collection. Leprechaun 3 is genuinely amazing. I love that movie. Leprechaun Returns. I'm a big fan of this movie too. Life. Lisa Frankenstein. The Lodge. Haven't seen it. It came in a horror pack, like a lot of movies that came in a horror pack that are on my shelf. I have not watched them. Hence why I stopped subscribing. Pandemonium. This is like, I think there's an alternate title where it's like Thursday, the Saturday. I don't know. There's an alternate title that makes it sound like a Friday the 13th ripoff. But this is pretty great. I love this movie. On to the final shelf in the collection. We have Ma, Madman. I expected to like this a lot more than I actually did. I'm a big fan of the Dead Pit podcast, and they absolutely love the shit out of this movie. I'm not a fan. I'm keeping it because it's like an iconic slasher, but I don't know if I'm ever going to rewatch it. We have Mandy. Maxine. I don't own X or Pearl yet, but since I'm getting back into collecting horror films and trying to fill in a lot of holes in my collection, I'm definitely going to be trying to get those soon. The McPherson tape. This is like 60 minutes and it's a found footage movie. Maybe the first found footage movie ever made. Like legitimate found footage, which is not Cannibal Holocaust or Blair Witch Project. Cannibal Holocaust is not a found footage film. Blair Witch Project was not the first found footage film because this exists. The Meg. Great slasher, or great shark movie, not a slasher. Don't know why I said that. Megan. Midsummer. Minefield. Don't know if this is horror. I have not watched it yet. I got it during a Vinegar Syndrome sale. Haven't watched it yet. The Mist. This is my least favorite of the Universal Legacy collections. I don't like a single movie in the set aside from The Mummy's Curse. I don't even like the original Mummy. I would get rid of this if it were not for The Mummy's Curse, which I don't know why I like that movie, but I just do. My Bloody Valentine, probably a top 5 slasher of all time, as well as the remake, which I haven't watched yet. I'm going to watch it soon. New York Ripper, great giallo. Probably one of the giallos I would use to introduce people to the concept of giallos. I think Fulci's films in almost every category of horror that he utilized are more approachable than Dario Argento's films. So if I were going to introduce somebody to Italian films and try to get them into it, I would probably go with Lucio Fulci instead of Argento. And I would show somebody New York Ripper before I would show them The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, even if I think that Crystal Plumage is a better film, which it is. Night Beast, which is on the TV screen, and Mandy, which is fun. Night House. Night in the Woods. Have not seen that one. Nightmare Sisters. Night of the Demons. Or Night of the Demon. There's no demons. Night of the Living Dead. Probably a must-own film in anyone's collection. Orgy of the Dead. Overlord. Paranormal Activity 1 through 3 and 4, which are the only ones that are truly worth owning. If I ever come across any of the other ones for very cheap, I'll grab it to have more of the franchise on my shelf. But these first 4 films, genuinely good in my opinion. Genuinely good to great in my opinion. The Passing. The Peanut Butter Solution. Perfect Strangers, love that movie. Pet Shop, haven't watched it, bought it at a convention from the Full Moon table like 5 years ago, still haven't watched it. Pet Cemetery, Pieces. This is probably the film I would go with to introduce somebody to a giallo. So I said New York Ripper is a good one. This is, in my opinion, the most American slasherized version of a giallo possible. It is endlessly rewatchable for me. The dub is amazing. It's one of my favorite horror films of all time. I love it. Piranha, Prince of Darkness, Psycho Gorman, Prom Night, pretty great slasher. Actually, I think it's underrated. Even though it's an iconic slasher, number one, that poster, amazing. One of the best slasher posters of all time. But also, underrated. Everyone loves Prom Night 2 way more. I completely disagree. I think Prom Night 2 sucks. To be honest with you, I think Prom Night 1 is amazing. Pumpkinhead, Puppet Master, The Littlest Reich. I think I showed the fact that I have the Puppet Master box set, but just in case I didn't, I'll go up to that towards the end. The Purge, it's the only one I own. I need to buy the rest of them because I do like this franchise a lot. Ready or Not, I love Samara Weaving. I think that she is the best Scream Queen of the 2000s, or the 2010s, 2020s. She is probably the best Scream Queen. I wish she was in more movies. I wish The Babysitter had a physical release. I need to get Mayhem. I think she's great. Reanimator, Resident Evil, as well as Resident Evil Apocalypse. I need to get the rest of them. Return of the Living Dead. My slipcover is beat the hell up. It came like that. I've had the slip forever. I don't particularly care about slipcovers anymore on horror films. But I do plan on getting this signed by Linnea Quigley in October when I go to Scarefest. Revenge of the Living Dead Girls. The Saw 8 film collection. Jigsaw is included in that, but I bought this because I just thought the steelbook was cool. And it was in like a clearance bin at Walmart. So I own Jigsaw twice. Even though it's probably one of the worst Saw movies. I need to get Saw X to complete the collection, but so far, I mean, this is pretty good. Scanners 2 and 3, have not watched those. I bought those because I loved Scanner Cop and Scanner Cop 2. These movies are fantastic, especially Scanner Cop. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Salem Witch Trials. I don't know how I acquired this movie. I didn't buy it. I've never seen it. Same with this. Have never seen either of those. Scream, Scream 2, Scream 3, Scream 4, and the Scream Legacy sequel. Very consistent franchise. I need to get 6 very badly. The Severed Arm. Amazing slasher. I wish more Vinegar Syndrome fans were down to watch this and gave it a shot because nobody ever talks about it. It's one of the best Vinegar Syndrome releases for sure. The Shallows. Shatter Dead, very good zombie movie. And another very good zombie movie, Shaun of the Dead. The Shining. Shockwaves. Skinamarink. And the very first Silent Night, Deadly Night. My second favorite Christmas horror movie, behind Black Christmas. Easily the second best Christmas horror film of all time. Alright, down here we have the Silent Night, Deadly Night collection. This includes 3, 4, and 5. I don't own 2 yet. I need to get 2. I just haven't gotten 2 yet. I do like basically every film in this series, even though none of them come close to being as good as 1. 2 is great, but 2 is like 40 minutes of snippets of 1, so I don't even count that. Sleepaway Camp, my favorite film of all time. This is my favorite slasher, my favorite horror film. If I had to watch one movie for the rest of my life and had to erase every other movie from existence, I would pick Sleepaway Camp. I have it signed by Felissa Rose. It's probably my most prized autograph in my entire collection. And then we have Sleepaway Camp 2 and Sleepaway Camp 3. Slither, signed by Michael Rucker. Slumber Party Massacre 1 and 2. Amazing slashers. They're also This one's like 70 minutes long, which I love. I think that most movies should be way shorter than they actually are. Society. Spellcaster. Split. The Suckling, which is one of the sleaziest movies I've ever seen in my entire life. Very good to throw on at a church get-together, you know what I mean? Sudden Fury. Don't know if I actually consider this one a horror movie as much as I do a thriller, but I put it in here. Sundown. This is sort of a Western horror movie, which is why I said maybe my only Western for Bone Tomahawk. It's kind of a Western horror movie, sort of. Talk to Me. Terrifier. Terror is a Man. Not good movie. I'm just going to hold on to it. I think the cover's cool and everything. But it's not good. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I want to say my third favorite horror film of all time. It's my third favorite horror film of all time. Because I'm about to get to my second favorite in a few minutes. But absolute masterpiece in my opinion. Endlessly rewatchable. One of the only truly unsettling movies to this day. And then we have the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, which, as somebody who loves the original so much, you would think I would hate the remake. It's the exact opposite. I think this is an amazing remake. Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning. It's okay. Texas Chainsaw 3D. I love the shit out of this movie. I don't care what anyone says. This is a great slasher. I love it. We have They Live. And then we have my second favorite horror film of all time. I just said Texas Chainsaw was my third, and Sleepaway Camp was my first. This is my second. We have the Thing Steelbook, the Thing Scream Factory Collector's Edition, as well as the Thing normal studio release signed by Keith David. It's the only movie I own 3 times. I have other editions of this movie I want to buy. I just haven't. Like, I want the Arrow video box set, and I want the 4K Steelbook that came out a couple years ago. I just haven't gotten those yet, but I will absolutely continue to collect different versions of this movie. We have the Thing remake type thing that came out that's somewhat okay. We have Ticks, Tombs of the Blind Dead, The Town That Dreaded Sundown. Very great early slasher movie. We have Toxic Avenger 1, 2, 3. Haven't watched 3 yet. I bought all these at different times at conventions. So when I go to Scarefest in October, by then I'm going to watch 3, or I have this out of order. By then I'm going to watch 3, and I'm definitely going to get 4 if I can come across it at the convention just to complete the collection. The Tremors box set. I'm going to get rid of this soon and get the Tremors collection. Trick. Haven't watched it. And then down here is the last section of my horror movies. Got a little dust right there. Trick or Treat is one of those movies that I really want to own a nicer copy of. I want the Arrow Video 4K box set that they put out for it. It's one of my favorite horror films. I just haven't decided to upgrade yet. Then we have Underworld. Have not seen that. Unsane. It's alright. I'm going to pull one of these out. We have Us. Don't care what anyone says. I love this movie. It became very popular to dislike Us. For some reason, everyone loves Get Out. Everyone loves Nope. For some reason, it just became super popular to shit on this movie. This movie's incredible. I love it. I need Nope in my collection. We have Vampires and Ghosts of Mars. VHS. I want to own VHS 2 at the very least, but I would like to own all of them at some point. We have The Ward. The Wicker Man Steelbook, which is probably the nicest looking steelbook in my entire collection. We have The Witch. The Wishmaster Collection. I have not seen 3 or 4. I've seen 1 and 2. 1 is fantastic. 1 is easily like a really fun, like nostalgic type film. The second one is okay. I've heard nothing but bad things about the last 2, which is why I haven't watched them. But at some point I'm going to just finish off the series. Witch Trap. Haven't seen. Bought it because it was going on clearance and it had Linnea Quigley in it. Wormwood, Road of the Dead. Extra. 3. You're Next. And then lastly, on this shelf we have Zombie 3, which is okay. It's a Lucio Fulci film I would classify as just being okay. I do have Zombie Flesh Eaters coming in the mail on Blu-ray, not 4K, which is I should have owned that long before I owned Zombie 3, and I'm very excited to finally put it in my collection and have it on my shelf. Just being able to come and grab it off and know that I can watch it whenever I want because it is one of the greatest zombie films of all time, and it's been missing from my collection. And then up here to finish off the collection video, I can't remember if I put that in the video already or not, but I have the Puppet Master collection. I have 1 through the Axis trilogy. I haven't seen all of them. I've seen the first 6 for sure, and I've seen the first Axis film, but I haven't watched Retro Puppet Master. And then I have the Arrow Video Ring box set. I love all 3 of those movies. I want to get the American Ring box set from Scream Factory at some point, but happy just to own that. And then that is my horror movie collection. Hopefully, I start making more videos and I do monthly pickup videos, maybe review some videos. But I'm going to try to at least do a video like this every 6 months to track my growth of my collection. And pretty soon, it'll be spilling over onto that shelf, so I'll need another shelf to keep everything in order. But thank you for watching.